Today, we will be discussing Major League Baseball's lack of gender and racial diversity in each franchise's front office and the plan that we have created to combat the lack of diversity and promote an increase in diversity hires. On our agenda, we plan to introduce the team and our project, introduce our stakeholders for our project, introduce the diversity problem that plagues Major League Baseball, and introduce our solution for the diversity problem in Major League Baseball. Our group, Eagle Team 4, is composed of Nicholas Giella, Renato Chaladovsky, Tyler Scheinblum, and myself, Brian Cook. To create an atmosphere for healthy change and advancement in Major League front offices, we have identified a few key roles that we need in terms of stakeholders. Who is going to sponsor our change? How are we targeting with our change? Who are the agents or people who need to be changed? And who can advocate for the changes that need to be made? Major League Baseball will be the sponsor for our diversity and inclusion plan. We will target all Major League front offices with our plan. Our change agents are those in CEO and senior positions, and our advocates are the fans and staff under these department heads. Our need is predicated by two statements. We need to promote inclusion and diversity in the MLB's staff and senior positions, and we need to bridge the racial and gender disparity between a minority-driven MLB in terms of players and coaches and predominant white male-focused front offices. It is no secret that analytics and logistics have been a catalyst for more Ivy League hires, predominantly white males in the MLB. The number of hires have increased 40% in 20 years, and in comparison, minority hires have only increased 7% in that same span, and these are only in senior Major League Baseball positions. Baseball is the oldest pro sport in the United States, and their seniority has been evidenced by the lack of emphasis on diversity in comparison to other major sports leagues. The MLB is rated second to last in having people of color in management positions. We need to change these numbers and create an in-touch and more advanced system and environment in Major League Baseball offices across the country.
Over the past few weeks, our team has researched every team in Major League Baseball. It is very evident that there is a lack of organizational diversity throughout the MLB. Out of 30 MLB teams that we researched, 28 GMs were white males. Delving further into the data, we looked at all leadership positions within each team, including the SVPs and directors. Out of 593 positions, we discovered that 87% are held by males. Additionally, we discovered that 9 teams had no African Americans in senior leadership positions. Moving on, we wanted to focus on the root cause of this issue. To start, we looked at the symptoms. There was an insignificant number of women, African Americans, and other minorities in senior leadership positions. Also, there were new hires, mostly coming from Ivy League schools. And lastly, there was low score for gender and minority hiring. Looking at the causes, we discovered that the MLB has created a culture that has led to a lack of MLB enforcement and planning, also a lack of teams' ownership and accountability. Therefore, we get to the root cause, which MLB team seniors didn't implement any serious diversity action plans or showed intent to change the culture that they have created. Moving on, we really wanted to focus on why diversity is a priority. We broke it down into 3 different sections. To start, there's an impact to quality. Fair employment practices means good reputation. Also, the staff is encouraged to contribute new ideas and solutions. Employees, personal growth learnings, and different ideas from perspective as well. Next, we wanted to focus on an impact to productivity. Diverse mindsets coming together to increase the number of problem-solving solutions. Also, there's a desirable and fair employer can retain and promote talent. Different perspectives and ideas increases productivity and thus delivers better results. Lastly, as it pertains to an impact to growth, minorities, African Americans, and women will be more engaged. More fans will lead to more market share. And then based on the McKinsey research, more diverse organizations are likely to show above average profitability. Adding on to why diversity must be a priority, we listed out 6 bullet points that we wanted to address. To start, highly gender diverse executive teams are 21% more likely to outperform on profitability. Next, 85% of CEOs with diverse and inclusive culture notice increased profits. Third, companies with equal men and women earn 41% more revenue. Fourth, diverse companies are 70% more likely to capture new markets. Fifth, inclusive companies are 1.7 times more innovative. And lastly, inclusive companies are 120% more likely to hit financial goals.
So what is our diversity and inclusion design? Firstly, we need to acknowledge what we are solving for. We are solving for a tangible action plan to improve diversity numbers across senior management and staff and promote a culture of diversity and inclusion. We are targeting the MLB team CEO, the president, and the board. We acknowledge that the risks of our project are internal resistance, and it's clearly a lengthy process. So first off, we need to empathize with this project and with the organization, acknowledging that it's very hard to implement a diversity plan. It is also a long process and with a deep cultural change. We are defining our project as a 5-year scalable plan, as displayed in the top right side of this slide, whereby we're thinking about a 10% growth per year, with the end goal of having minorities holding 50% of senior positions. It's very hard to implement, and we need to understand that little victories are key for the success of our project. The idea is to have a mandatory CDIO hiring in a 1-year time frame, and the CDIO is going to implement a diversity and inclusion department. We're prototyping this project as having the CDIO reporting into the team CEO or president. The CDIO is going to have a very well-defined role that we're going to be proposing, and we need to ensure that the MLB is enforcing and helping us with this hire. Finally, we're going to be measuring our success through mandatory quarterly climate reports to the MLB CDIO, so this person can measure and enforce results. The cost and benefits analysis of our project are very clear. Looking to this graphic, it's very apparent that African Americans, other minorities, and females are in their majority not fans of baseball. So there's a significant opportunity to capture market share and cross-selling and engagement with females, African Americans, and other minorities. The cost of hiring a CDIO and HR officers to lead this project is immaterial versus MLB's team profitability, which is in average goes around $122 million. So what should be the CDIO doing? What is their job description? First off, the CDIO must be a senior leader and an advisor to the CDIO, to the CEO or the president. The CDIO should be responsible to draft and to implement a diversity strategy. It should be responsible to oversee the recruitment and retention of the organization, as well as coming up with diversity best practices, be a mentor and advocate to junior staff within the organization, and more importantly, measuring the success of the diversity project. Last but not least, in our organization thought process, we would like to propose to the teams within the MLB an organizational chart, which is very important to have the CDIO or the Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer reporting directly to the team CEO and also with a dotted line to the MLB CDIO. This person, the Chief Diversity Officer, is going to have freedom either to build a department underneath or having already existing departments headcounts to be diversity initiative department leaders so they can help this person implementing diversity within the organization.
So here's an example of what our climate quarterly report samples would look like. With these reports, we would want to track progress timely with gender, age, race, mobility report, job pipeline, and department diversity breakdown to make sure that they are staying within the initiative for success. For the commitment, we want the MLB to issue mandatory CDIO hirings and its mandatory organizational structure. So this will be a 5-year goal plan where we want to have 50% women and minorities occupying the front office senior positions. Having the CDIO help make the change more feasible and be on the front lines to measure success rates for minority hires. We want the MLB to incorporate fines into its rules around CDIO hiring and organizational structure. We want to implement the quarterly climate reports. And lastly, we will want each team to implement its own diversity and inclusion written policy aiming for MLB's 5-year goal plan. So in conclusion, minorities are significantly underrepresented in MLB's team's front offices today. The data that we portrayed, it portrays that diverse and inclusive organizations do better than organizations that are non-diverse. This is a significant opportunity to capture market share with African Americans, females, and other minorities. Lastly, with the nomination of a CDIO to implement diversity policies and strategies, the benefits will outweigh the costs. If there are any questions, comments, or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out and ask. And thank you everyone for allowing us to present this to you today.